Welcome to But Her Lyrics. That's ridiculous. Welcome to But Her Lyrics, the show where we delve into the political lyrics of songs I like, songs I wrote, or topics that I think should be a song. I'm Shawna Potter, singer and lyricist for waronwomen, and your host. We've got a fun one. I finally got my buddy Lynn from Bad Cop, Bad Cop to sit down and chat with me. We all met, around 10 years ago at Riot Fest, I think. We've toured together, but I didn't really know her or her band's origin story. So get ready for a deep dive on Lynn, how she got into music, how Bad Cop started, and the very real story behind the song we're focusing on in this episode, Safe and Legal. Despite the serious nature of the song, despite the very real struggle to regain rights that we already had in this country but recently lost, there is a lot of laughter, right? So get ready for two friends having fun, getting to know each other even better. And later in the episode, I have a brief chat with Amelia of Shout Your Abortion, how things have gotten worse in recent years, of course, but also a little bit about what we can all do about it. Patreon! Before we get too deep into it, I want to shout out our official sponsors, First Defense Krav Maga and Pupcakes and Pastries. Links in the show notes, of course. Please check them out. And big thanks to my recruits, Melissa and Ronnie, who has an awesome trans-affirming hair salon in Seattle. So please look up Navarro Hair Design. And my meatheads, Stefan, Zachary, Peter, Bob, Byron, Russell, Isaiah, and Ben, and hunters, Mike, Andres, Lydia, Tim, Bessie, Zachary, Kevin, and Lauren. Please don't forget that y'all can make requests. And if you, non-patron, want some cool perks or want to make requests, consider joining my Patreon, where you'll also get access to behind-the-scenes stuff, bonus content, and I have a new shirt design. If you want to join at the meathead level or above and stay there for at least 3 months, you get a new shirt. Some of those have already shipped out. I cannot wait to see them in real life. So please tag me, of course. A cool new thing Patreon has added is a chat feature on both the desktop version and the app version of the site. So it kind of feels like we're all on a big text thread together. Lots of dog pics being thrown around, which is my favorite. So whether you're a new patron or an existing one, download the app so we can chat. All right, stay tuned for my chat with Amelia from Shout Your Abortion. But up now, my interview with Lynn of Bad Cop, Bad Cop. Interview time! Lynn, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
On But Her Lyrics. Please introduce yourself to everyone.
I'm Lynn. I am the bassist and vocalist for Bad Cop, Bad Cop. And I also help run a campaign called Bases Against Racists.
Which is awesome. So awesome. Now, we met briefly at Riot Fest in 2016. And that next summer, we were on Warped Tour together. And so I've known you for a while. But I remember being so happy about that, right? Like that was a reason to say yes to Warped Tour, knowing that, okay, there's other women here that we know, like maybe everything will be okay, which ... But that was 7 years ago now.
I know.
What do you remember about being in Bad Cop back then versus now?
Well, I think that the dynamic in the band has definitely changed.
Yeah.
And Warped Tour was a huge test, I think. It was definitely what I would consider summer camp for bands. The weather was pretty unforgiving. I'd say a good 70 to 80% of the time, but we all were able to push through. And because of that tour, no matter how grueling it was, we were able to befriend so many people and really, between, your stage and our stage and like a couple other stages, like all the bands that, we had all met on that tour. We still all talk together, talk to each other, catch up and support each other at shows. And then it's really like that kind of tight knit community that we, look forward to all the time. Anytime we book a show or play, book a tour. I think back then we were definitely underprepared about with how grueling it was going to be, but it definitely.
I don't think you know until you've done it. Like you can't know.
Exactly. You're just like, oh my God, I'm part of this major festival that has been legendary for, years and years and years. And you get there and, unless you have the funds to hire, road crew, like people to actually do all the, manual labor, you have to do it, you have to participate in it, because otherwise, you're just not helping out. And really it's just about making sure that everybody gets to have that experience. And it taught me a lot about patience, having a lot of patience, adapting to environments that I don't think I would have patience for, like before going on that tour, appreciating the opportunity to, be involved in such a massive festival. No matter how hard it was still rewarding in the end. Like, I mean, yeah, it was so tough.
It was tough.
It was so tough. I remember, like, first thing every morning, the first thing I would find was a bathroom. I'm sorry. This is the posh end of myself. I cannot do a porta potty. My sense of smell is way too sensitive. And so I was like on the lookout, and it didn't matter how far I would walk. I'm like, I'm going to go find an actual bathroom.
I bet you had some long walks then.
Yeah. I mean, granted, it was probably I was in the best shape of my life. I mean, yes, a lot of moving around and lifting and, helping build our stage and moving all the backline from the semi. I was in the best shape of my life, but I don't think it was necessarily healthy either.
Now, before we dig into your song, Safe and Legal, I would love to learn a little bit more about the band. I am so sorry to do this so soon into the interview, but Lynn's answer is actually going to be a bonus post available only to patrons. So sign up now on my Patreon if you'd like to hear the amazing story of how Bad Cop got together. Now, you're a band of, multiple songwriters and singers. So I'm curious, as a bass player, like how do you write the songs that you bring to Bad Cop? Like, do you start on an acoustic in your room? Do you start on, I'm sure you don't start on bass, right? You play guitar?
Yeah. I start off on guitar usually, but as of late, we've actually just finished recording a new album.
Yay.
We finished tracking it. It's so exciting. And this was, the first time in a long time in which we actually all sat together and wrote the songs together. And it's, originally it was like someone would bring an idea and we just work on it. And it's still kind of that way for the most part. But this time around, it's been really collaborative, like equally collaborative. And I enjoy that the most when everybody kind of has an equal voice into writing, whether it's, even helping lyrically. Like I'm going to be honest, writing lyrics is kind of the bane of my existence.
Oh, really?
And to this day, I am so self-conscious about it. But everybody helps, with the writing process, and that it's just such it's a very socialist environment, which I genuinely appreciate.
So it sounds like the new album that you're working on right now, the writing was a bit more like truly collaborative, which, again, just caveat, there's no one way to be in a band. Like there's a million ways to be in a band or write songs. No one way is better than the other. Can you tell a difference in the songs?
Yes.
By writing this way? And if so, like, what is that difference?
I think, well, in the past, we, past couple albums, we did have, Fat Mike involved in the, in the producing process, which, I really appreciate and I'm grateful for. Like, it's not every day that you have that kind of experience put into the art that you want to put out. This time around, he wasn't involved. Which, I'm also very grateful for, because this time it feels just unapologetically and authentically us. It still has the hooks that, we are maybe are known for, especially harmony wise. But this is definitely, this album, at least for me, and I can only really speak for myself, is definitely the most vulnerable that I've ever written. I'm sure that if anybody's listened to Bad Cop, especially with songs that I had written, they're very, very politically driven. Seldom do I ever say anything that is that involves me personally. And it wasn't until, honestly, Pursuit of Liberty is probably the most personal that had been released up until the point of Safe and Legal being released. Because again, it for so long, I mainly wanted to write about topics that I felt, very passionate about, and felt that I wanted to raise awareness with, and didn't necessarily want to include whether or not I was, if I've ever experienced it or not, because it doesn't take away from the situation actually happening.
Yeah, you don't have to be personally affected to care.
Exactly. But I've found that now, there's topics that I have been, that have affected me personally. And I feel that if I can, and again, it's a very difficult thing for me to involve my personal experiences with, because at the same time, I'm just like, who gives a shit if I was personally involved? Like, this shit's still happening. But it's helped me, though. It's been therapeutic for me as far as being able to not hold back. So,
that's a big difference. Yeah. To start really including your personal story and perspective. That's a level of vulnerability that I sort of think of it it was easier for me to do that when I had a guitar in front of me that felt like a shield, and it was a little harder to do that when it was just me and no instrument, So you still have your shield. You still have a shield in front of you. Don't worry.
It doesn't feel like a particularly large shield, though. I guess everybody, takes it a little bit differently.
That's fair. You do wear it very low, so your belly is exposed. Anyone that's like a war expert or an armor expert might be like, this isn't helping your soft bits at all. What are you talking about? I'm screwed
with the archer. The archers are just gonna get me. I'm sorry. There's no going around that.
I love it. Does Bad Cop consider itself a political band, or just a band that writes about political stuff sometimes?
I guess it's a little from column A, a little from column B. I think we just write about things that are important to us. And if it happens to be involved, circumstances that are current events, or policies that are going to affect, they're just really important things to write about. And I think that, I think in a sense, there are a lot of bands out there that don't consider themselves political, but I feel like being able to put out any sort of vulnerable and authentic artwork out there is a political act.
Yeah, for a lot of people. All right, so let's dig in to your song, Safe and Legal. Basically, anytime a band has a song about abortion, I'm like, yep, that's the one. And because unfortunately it is so relevant, right? As we're recording this, the Supreme Court is hearing a case on whether or not pregnant people can get emergency care in the ER in Idaho, which could have reverberating, if that's a word, I think it is, effects across the nation. So tell me about how the song Safe and Legal came to be.
The overturning of Roe v. Wade it felt like a stab in the gut. As someone that has gone through, and I've been very vocal about this because I don't have anything to hide. And quite honestly, it's my business to share and not anybody else's to judge. So I've had 3 abortions in my life, proudly, no regrets. And quite honest, and the whole premise behind writing that song, because reproductive care, it's a human right. Period. And it's nobody's business. It's nobody's business. Nobody would come up to you if anybody was like, "I need an appendectomy." How dare you? How dare you? Your medical procedure is going to affect nobody, and you're gonna do it. How dare you? And it's wild to me that we are still like fighting for these rights. And I mean, I don't know. I'm hoping to bring out a different perspective with this song. I hope I did in some sense, you know, and being able to show people, you know, that it's just healthcare. It's a necessity. It is a life-saving procedure. It is a choice that anybody that has a uterus should be allowed to make without having any repercussions, without getting arrested, without going to jail, without these, you know, these assholes wanting to like target people. You know, it's wild to me. And I, you know, I may not have what it takes to change the world, but maybe I could change a couple of minds, and that's just enough.
And so did the lyrics like kind of pour out and then you wrote music to it, or vice versa? Or like, how did that go?
It was, well, I had the lyrics, which normally doesn't happen with me. And lyrics never come first for me.
I was going to say.
Lyrics never come first with me. But this one did. And I remembered sitting there on my balcony, and just like, I was just so focused. And this was the first time that I was like, I've gone through this. I've gone through this 3 different times. Nobody needs to know the reason why, because that's no one's business. But I did it, and I haven't, you know, and it was life-saving, and that should be the point of view for anybody that's going through that. And as you know, as a community of coming from the outside and seeing somebody that you care about or you don't care about, doesn't matter. If they're going to go through this, it's their decision. It's important to them. It is life-saving for them. It is, you know, and also all this like pro-life bullshit. Y'all are not even going to take care of the kids that are out here. Like, give me a fucking break. Sorry, I keep cussing.
It's okay. It's a fucking punk podcast. You know, don't worry about it.
So the lyrics just spewed out, and this was like like I said, it was the first time where I was like, you know what? I think it's time to tell my story. You know.
Yeah.
And I remember, you know, the first time it happened. It's terrifying, you know, and you don't know what to do. I was 19 the first time it happened. I'm 40. I'm going to be 42 this year. I still don't want that shit to happen, you know? and so, and what goes through your mind, and especially how stigmatized it was back then, it still is now. You know, what, and the shame that you had, you know, going through that procedure, it took me years to be able to be like, there's nothing shameful about that. It's a medical procedure. It's a medical procedure.
Do you feel like you're still maybe trying to get over that shame, or do you feel like you're on the other side of it now?
I am well over the other side of that now. I am well over the other side of that. And I hope that anybody that still feels that way will see that as well. Because ultimately, you know, the decision for yourself, what's best for yourself. And it sucks that we have these policies that prevent you from making the best decision for yourselves and force you into circumstances that are setting you up to fail. So,
yes. And it's on a 7-inch right now?
Double A side, which we released October. I'm losing track of time.
Is it going to be on your upcoming album that you're working on right now too, or it's a separate fun little side thing?
It's a separate little Mamma Jam along with Stacey's song Shattered. So we wanted to put something out because, you know, it had been since 2020, and, you know, 2020.
Yeah, I hear you there. Same boat.
Like, well, it's been a while. So
now there's a video for this song, and like, and Lynn, you are acting your ass off in this video. And then I was like, wait, but are you? Because I can just tell from your performance in the video, like, this has to be autobiographical, right? Good. Like, I just knew before even asking you. So what was it like to put yourself in that headspace and sing these words and were you thinking of specific moments? Like what did that feel like to make that video?
It was definitely, resurfacing the memories that I had when I went through it. I could confidently say, the 3 different times that it did happen were, those memories were, coming back through my head. And I had to, focus on like, how did I feel at that time? How would I feel now? And I just wanted to, a lot of that, even though obviously the scenes they're actually taking place in my bathroom right here. And, the time frame is obviously different because I'm much older now. But the emotions that I went through, seeing, the pregnancy test and seeing that, that is burned into my
wow. Yeah. Right.
Into my brain. I remembered seeing that. I remembered all 3 times. Right. And it was the same feeling each time, different circumstances, but the same wave of emotions. And like this, okay, what do I do next? Like what pacing back and forth, like, and being angry with myself for letting it get to this point. But then again, it's like, well, sorry, shit happens. It does, and
no, I'm glad you found compassion for yourself.
Yeah, it did take me a long time to forgive myself for letting, having the thoughts of like, well, why did you let this happen in the first place? Well, you could have done this. You could have done this. You could have done, and that's all in hindsight. It's too late at that point. This is the circumstances now. So what the fuck am I going to do now to move forward? And those thoughts were just always, swimming in my head. And I had to be in touch with those feelings again when I did that music video. And it was a little bit hard. And and there was a point where I was like, I broke down and I was like, oh, wait, oh, it was triggering. Oh. So, but I'm proud of it. And I hope that anybody that hears the song or sees the music video that could possibly relate to it will hopefully be able to find the same kind of compassion for themselves and forgiveness for themselves as well. And understanding that there's nothing shameful about this. There is a community out there that will help you, through this process. Because in the same light, it is a little bit it is a bit traumatizing because it's still, there's still that part.
It's a big event.
Yeah.
Either way. Now I don't know if you know this, but I'm now an intimacy coordinator for filmed performances, film and TV and theater. And so I'm just super interested in the production side of it. How did you get the 2 lines on there? Like, did you just find a pregnant person to be on a stick?
Oh no!
Or, like, how did you get that prop?
Props.
Okay.
I got like a little pregnancy test, and I got I had this fine tip marker that was blue. I was like,
okay.
I love it. I love it. So, just trying to make it as realistic as possible without actually having to be with child.
No, I totally appreciate it. Thank you for indulging me. I was just really curious about that,
And actually, I'd like to give a little shout out to my buddy Josh Roush, who filmed and directed the music video. He's a wonderful filmmaker. So thank you, Josh, for doing such an incredible job.
Speaking of incredible videos, me and Jen Archie got to be in the Bad Cop video for Simple Girl. So just everyone go watch that and you'll see us appear at some point. That was really fun to do over the, pandemic when we couldn't really do any very pandemic video. We have a pandemic video too. So thank you for including us in that. Now I think you still play in a few bands these days, right? Like it's not just Bad Cop, or do you like guest for bands sometimes? Or Is it just Bad Cop
It's
lately?
just been Bad Cop, honestly. And here and there, I'll do some like solo acoustic stuff just for fun. Cause I genuinely like to perform. Like I love doing it. So if I have the opportunity to play like a little solo acoustic set, which, half of my set, I wear a fake knitted beard and wear flannel.
Why?
Yeah. And do a bunch of Chuck Reagan songs and call myself Chick Reagan.
You know what I've always wanted to do? A piano bar kind of set. And it's called Damezig.
Oh my God.
But it's like Danzig songs and like a chill, jazzy piano vibe, me and Brooks. Anyway, okay. But I've seen you've played like upright bass in a band or something, right? So, okay. How did you get into music? Like what instrument did you start with? What's your deal?
I started on guitar when I was young. I, realized I was not very good at it. But I realized early on that these hands don't know how to do chords very well. But I was able to hear bass lines, which a really wildly bizarre thing to be able to hear over everything else on top of like outside of vocals. And growing up, I've always been a singer. Like I was in concert choir and, musicals, stuff like that in school. So I loved it. And a lot of it is performance based, which I just absolutely love to do. Once I started realizing that I was like, I could hear the bass lines and I could play the bass lines on the guitar, kind of switched over to that. And then after I moved to Philadelphia, it was Bill Haley and the Comets, obviously minus Bill Haley. And that was like the first time I'd seen like a rockabilly band and seeing an upright bass. And I was like, ooh, I want to learn how to play that. And I bought one off of eBay.
Oh, wow.
And I learned from YouTube videos and then started playing in like some rockabilly cover bands.
How long ago was that? Like, how long ago did you get an upright bass?
That was 22. So nearly 20 years ago.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh God. 20 years.
Sorry. Don't think about that. Sorry.
I've accepted that I'm just getting older and it's just going to happen. But yeah, I was about 22 when I first learned how to play upright. Played in some rockabilly bands, like, the cover bands that would play at the bars for like 3 1-hour sets and, get paid a couple $100 to do that, which was fun. And then I had joined a band called the Reach Around Rodeo Clowns. And we were touring, semi-heavily, but we ended up having a residency on the West Coast. And so that was November of 2009. And and the residencies ended up like being more sporadic. So it was like, oh, well, I'm just going to move out west. And so I had a friend of mine that lived in Southern California that wanted to move to Philly. And so we essentially just like switched places.
Oh, funny. Oh my gosh.
The timing of that worked out perfectly. And I bought a one-way flight ticket and just moved out here. It was like, here I am, California. Who's ready to smoke some weed?
Did that love of music and performing like come from your parents? Like, how did they influence that?
My parents. So my parents, my mom, I get a lot of my like entertainment side from my mom and both my mom and dad, but they were never like performers. Like my mom loves to go dancing. She loves to she is 70 and living. She is traveling the world.
She's charismatic.
Yeah, she is incredible. She ballroom dances. She is going to outlive all of us. My dad, who had passed away back in 2017, he was also in his own way an entertainer. He liked it was like people had to come to him and he would entertain, but he would never go out of his way. So ever since I was little, and I think I have two older sisters as well, and we all participated in the arts in some way, shape, or form. I was always a performer since I was little. I think my sister might have a dance recital video from when I was like 5. And
We're going to find that footage, listeners. We're going to figure it out.
Have her digitize it. Be like, can you convert that from VHS to...
it's for a podcast. It's important. Research. We need it.
And it's just always been, I was a gymnast, and that was, it wasn't so much the sport itself. It was just being able to be in front of a crowd and to be able to do to do all these things in front of a crowd. Same, and I played soccer too. Soccer is just, what it is. But when you had a great assist or you had a great save, because I was a goalkeeper, in spite of my height, I was a goalkeeper. But it was just hearing that crowd, hearing the crowd, hearing them cheer. And I get the same adrenaline rush when I perform. And that's the reason why I do it. And this is the reason why I will always find a way to perform in one way, shape, or form, because I live for it. I live for it. So my parents, my dad, unfortunately, never got to see me perform, and never came to my, any of my gymnastics meets and soccer games, nothing extracurricular, which is fine. He was my dad. He's very much a homebody. And my parents, were refugees from Vietnam. My mom and my sisters, and this is why I'm okay with the fact that my dad never did this. My sisters and my mom have traveled the world to see us perform. And we'll continue. And if they're like, oh, we're going to make it. Oh, you're playing Chicago? What's second trip to Chicago? And you actually met them. Yeah.
I met them because of that, which is amazing. And I remember your mom looking at our drummer, Dave Cavalier, and being like, he looks like Aquaman. That's what I remember about your mom. And I was like, okay. Which for him, I think he was like, that's fine, whatever. Because I think more often he gets, you look like that guy from the Superman movie who is like a little kind of insulting to call him that. Original Superman. Never mind. Yeah. One of the bad guys from Superman 2, maybe. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Anyway, delete. Sorry, Dave.
It's okay, Dave. I mean, just hold on to that compliment that you look like Jason Momoa. So.
Yeah, come on. I was like, yeah, it could be worse. Yeah, don't worry about it. Speaking of your sports background, since you brought it up, just a funny little question. Has there ever been a circumstance where you've worn pants?
Never. No, tearaway pants. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't always, it's funny. Everybody knows me for being pantsless, and quite I used to, it wasn't, I actually didn't start wearing predominantly shorts until I'd say 2013, maybe.
Oh, yeah,
it's not been that long. Because I used to be really self-conscious about my legs. They're short. They're built like blocks, and
they're fucking strong. That's cool.
I appreciate it. But yeah, and then I just realized I'm actually just more comfortable wearing shorts, just because temperature-wise, my legs are just it's too hot to wear pants, bitch. It's gotta be 40 degrees and below for you to be like, it's time to wear pants. Got to keep these legs warm.
Another reason why you probably are enjoying the West Coast over the East Coast.
Yeah, I don't miss the weather. I do not miss having to scrape my windshield in the wintertime, or sitting in the car to let my windshield defrost, worrying about black ice.
Ooh,
or that wonderful thing called wind chill. So
yeah.
It's going to be 30 degrees outside with a wind chill of -20. So
yeah, I'm happy to be in Baltimore, which is still technically the South weather-wise, but at least I get to see winter sometimes, which growing up in Texas, we did not have winter. So I'm enjoying it. it. But
I just have to look that way and I could see the mountains and
right. Yeah, you're like, that's good. That's fine.
I'm close enough.
What do you wish people asked you in interviews about Bad Cop that they just don't, and you don't know why?
That's a tough question. I have no idea. Honestly, what I would like for them to stop asking is...
to stop that. Yeah, that's a good one too. What do you want them to fucking shut up about? Yeah.
And thankfully, it hasn't really come up in a long time, which I am fucking God. What's it like to be in an all-girl band?
Oh my God. Yeah. And you're like, I don't know. I'm in my 40s. We are all women, but thank you.
I'm in a band, just like any band, you're in a relationship with at least 2-3 other people. That's all it is. And I mean, I'm grateful that I've been wanting to be in a band with all women my entire life. And it's happening. And it's a relationship that has been with me for over a decade, which is a wonderful feeling. And yeah, it's not always perfect, but perfection is quite honestly boring. I would rather have flaws and be able to embrace those flaws and differences and learning how to come to a compromise, understanding from, somebody else's point of view, even if you don't agree with it, but just seeing, a different perspective and opening up that conversation. And I thankfully have been able to have that. So I think the most appropriate question is, what's it like to be in a band?
But that still kind of sounds like an 8-year-old is asking you for their public access show.
If I'm being interviewed by anybody under the age of 10, I'll let that slide. You get carte blanche.
Yeah, totally.
But anybody that's like, to this, and especially in this day and age when there's so many, like, it's not like, I really wish that people would do, like, somebody gave me a pin. It's like, female fronted is not a genre. Yeah. And it's absolutely right. It could be, why do we have to segregate that still? Yeah. So I think that if we want to come together in an equal way, it's just like, this is a band. This is, they write rad music, and this is, so-and-so who's the lead vocalist, or so-and-so, these two people that, that shared this responsibility. So I think that if there was only one thing that, and again, it hasn't been asked in a very long time. So please, folks out there, do not ask this anymore.
Of anyone.
Of anybody.
Of anyone ever. It's, so I feel like a lot of bands are either like legendary bands, they've been around forever, or they broke up and they reunited, or they're like a newer band or in their 20s or 30s, and I don't feel like there's a lot of women doing what we do.
Right.
And that are our age, maybe even a little older. How do you navigate being a woman in the music industry that isn't 20, that isn't white, that doesn't look like she's starving? Like,
I love
like, how do you do it? And maybe how do you do it is not the right, question exactly, but just like, what are your thoughts on it, and have they changed over the years?
Yes, I think so. I think a lot years before, it was something that would bum me out, and because I know y'all have been doing the same thing. We've been doing the same thing. We work our asses off. And yeah, we do have our crowds, right? We have our fans, which is great, which is something that I will continue to be appreciative and grateful for. Before I changed my mindset, and it's something that I kind of battle with here and there too, because, it is kind of like, why does it have to be one or the other? Why do you have to be this age and below and have this certain look and these certain characteristics in order to be considered successful, or why do you have to be like a band that's reuniting after 30 years or something? Why can't there be an equal appreciation for the middle folks? And it's hard not to think that way. It's hard not to have that thought, cross your mind on, especially when you're, about to put out a new album. Like, are people going to like this shit or not? Part of me has learned to just appreciate, honestly, just to appreciate the people that will continue to support and will continue to amplify and be there. I know that we're not going to always please everybody. Quite frankly, I don't care. I'm not here to live up to anybody else's expectations of my craft. And also what I believe in as well. All I can say is that I'm just going to continue to try my best, because that's really all I can do. And if you want to be a part of that gravy train, come on in. But if you don't want to, I'm not gonna try to twist your arm to stick around, because I'm done wasting my time with that.
Yes. I like that. That's good advice. Don't waste your time.
And continue to be there and be supportive for those that are reciprocating that. And being able to, like, whenever I see friends like about to drop new music and stuff like that, like, if you want to share it, then share it. Great. If you don't want to share it, that's on you. That's okay too. But I'm not going to sit around and be like, did so-and-so share my stuff? Like, I'm not going to waste my time with that, because I can't expect that out of people. I can't expect somebody to do something that they may or may not want to do. All I can do is control what I can bring forward. And that's the energy that I'm just going to continue to focus on, and hope that anybody that wants to hop on board is there for the ride.
I love it. Are there any resources around the song Safe and Legal, or anything else that you want to shout out to people?
Yes.
Not to put you on the spot.
No, but, it's okay. I actually, I just bought like a shit ton of these Plan C. Have you ever heard of Plan C pills?
Yeah.
So they have on their site these resources that I'm actually going to take on tour with me, and put them up, especially in areas in which abortion rights have been severely restricted. But they have like stickers and flyers with like a QR code.
Yes.
And so I have a massive box.
You sure do. Yeah, those will last a while.
So I and just continue, and sources like that. I really enjoy Shout Your Abortion too, providing a platform in which people can voice their stories. And I think, and on top of that too, when it comes to other causes, like, I'm going to advocate for the Sidewalk Project, because I think destigmatizing, housing, like people that are, houseless that want to use, destigmatizing drug use. Like, do it.
Harm reduction.
Yeah. Like, okay, you don't have to agree with somebody using such and such substance, but that doesn't take away their right to be able to have it done safely, to be able to provide preventative care if something happens. In other words, no one should have to be dehumanized in any way. No one's right. We should take care of each other equally and the same way. And yeah, let's just be here for each other. Come on.
That is a great place to leave it. Any other things that you want to shout out, I'll put in the show notes, but where can people find you online, Lynn?
We are on the streaming platforms, which, is fine. If you want to stream music, I stream music. I'm guilty of that shit too. But if you really want to support artists, and I encourage you to do this in any way, shape, or form, going to shows, and buying merch directly from them. That way, it is a true support of the music and friends and bandmates and everything that if you can do it, great. Supporting different causes that you believe in as well. And yeah, just hope to see you all at shows.
Love it.
And actually, we're playing Fest together, right? You play Fest?
We're on the second announcement. But we'll see when this episode comes out. Maybe it'll be announced. Delete. All right. So here's my fake goodbye, and then we'll do a real goodbye.
Okay.
Lynn, thank you so much for chatting with me. I really appreciate it. It's been so lovely to see your face.
Yeah, thank you,
I can't wait to see you in person at some show so we can high five for real again. It's been too long.
I know, it's been entirely too long.
But thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Shawna. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Lynn. I'm so excited to hear they're working on a new album. Selfishly, I hope we get to tour together again. But I know I will see them at Fest this year, at least. Will I see you? Anyway, I'm going to play Safe and Legal in full at the end of the episode, of course. But first, shout your abortion.
Man, I just saw a tweet that the Trump verdict has just reached a trial, and they're like walking into the courtroom right now to announce it, which, I mean, I like have a hard time believing anything will ever matter, you know, but it is a spicy moment that I'm like, what will they do?
Well, so let's hurry up and get this over with so we can find out what they did. Amelia, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate this. Please introduce yourself to everyone.
My name is Amelia Bonow, and I use she, her pronouns. I am the co-founder and executive director of Shout Your Abortion. And SYA is a nationwide organization that works to normalize abortion and elevate paths to access regardless of legality.
The regardless of legality very much interests me.
Yeah, it's in bolded italics, all caps, neon writing.
Yeah, I have this memory of, I don't know, a long time ago. I don't remember if it was like my personal Instagram or Warren Women's Instagram, but I shared some piece of art that was like, be gay, do crimes. And a classic. And I remember someone saying like, hold on. Like, what do you mean? Like, why are you? And they were being real. Like, this isn't a troll. Like, honestly, it was in good faith. And it was like, why are you encouraging people to break the law? And what does that have to do with being gay? And like, what the hell's going on? And I was like, well, there's a lot of things and a lot of people that were basically considered illegal at the time that now we would be like, well, that's crazy. We would never do that now. But there have often been things that are morally right, but legally punishable, I guess, from governments. And so I think that it is our duty to break laws that are immoral.
Absolutely.
Which is really easy for me to say as a white woman, obviously. But that's why I feel like I just am here to help. How can I help?
Well, let's talk about it. And I was so interested to hear your explanation of that was like very just like helpful and like sort of literal and historical. I just, because part of me, Be Gay, Do Crimes resonates on like, I think a soul teenager level with me. That's it's like, I don't know, like shave your eyebrows and kill your parents. Like,
right. Rebel for no reason. Who cares?
Yeah.
We don't know what's happening.
Whatever you want.
Yeah. Like, but that to me does stay in the realm of like being a teenager. And that does remind me of a certain era of punk that was like all about being edgy for edgy's sake. Yeah, and I think that fortunately we've sort of moved past that. And it's like, no, the stakes are high. Like, this is real. And so the cool thing is that we can still be like teenage rebellious punks, but do it for something that's worth doing it for.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's not, I mean, I don't think that there's anything about like SYA's approach, for example, that is like about being an edgelord. It's like about telling people how to like live free in their bodies with autonomy. And I think normalizing defiance and normalizing as SYA's got a rad new organizing director whose name is Jex Blackmore, who's done a lot of shit over the years, and including working with the Satanic Temple, and like is just kind of a brilliant like performance artist and like philosopher of social change. And Jex and I were just talking about how important it is to like just go outside and like do a wheat paste or like drop a banner off a freeway once in a while. And in part, I think it's really important because you're showing other people that it's okay to step out of line, that it's possible to. And we're fucked if we don't a whole lot of us start doing that in a whole lot of different respects, not just abortion. But I think that in the case of abortion, when SYA talks about like abortion, regardless of legality, and we talk about like refusing to comply with these courts and these laws, et cetera, like we're telling people that they still have options no matter what, and that they always will. And I think that like our culture has still a very fused understanding of like safety and legality. And we need to really start decoupling those things, because this is not the days of coat hangers anymore. We have abortion pills available by mail in all 50 states. They are very safe and effective. We've got, a increasingly mobilized army of like people on the ground working for abortion funds and practical support organizations and hotlines, and this whole emerging new like sort of network of people working to help each other have abortions. And amazingly, the abortion rate post-Dobbs has actually not dropped. It has increased a little bit, because that shit is working, and because pills by mail is becoming more and more and more like prevalent and available. And wow. I think that it's really important for people to know that abortion's not going away. These systems are like becoming sort of like post-institutional in many ways, and like way more rooted in this more like punk, more community-oriented form of like people taking care of each other in the absence of these failed institutions. But we can do it, and we are doing it, and we're never going to stop. And everybody needs to know that shit, because that also means you can have an abortion.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
Why is it important for us to keep sharing our stories of abortion, and why shout?
Like, first of all, I think that I think everyone should do whatever they want. And if in case that was unclear, I definitely think that I've never wanted SYA to feel like some sort of feminist imperative where like you should talk about your abortion. I think you should do whatever you want. And I guess the greater question to me, though, is like, why the fuck wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we tell the truth about our own lives in whatever way we want, in whatever tone and volume we want? And like the answer of why we didn't do that for a very long time, I think is complex, and in some ways it's not. In some ways it's just like abortion stigma. Like the right wing, like very successfully sort of ginned up this concept of abortion stigma. They murdered a bunch of doctors. They reframed the conversation based on like the life of a fetus, and they terrorized people into silence. And they very effectively like created this big cultural mythology that I think a lot of us who had abortions that we were quiet about, like sort of felt like we were participating in. And the lie being that like, this is bad. This really fucks people up. People only do it for really fucked up reasons, and then they feel terrible about it. This is not common. This is something that like bad people do. This is something that our wives don't do. This is something that is like worst case scenario.
Our mistresses don't do.
Yeah, exactly. And all of this is just a bunch of bullshit that like isn't real, and it can only exist with our silence. And once we actually start talking about our lives on our own terms, we gain the ability to define our own experiences for ourselves, like emotionally even, and just like I think that one byproduct of like early SYA stuff, which SYA started in 2015 when I spoke about my own abortion experience, it catalyzed this outpouring of people talking about their experiences. And it was like every kind of experience, because that's what abortion is like. It's like all the things, and for me, my experience, I was like ultra grateful. It was super galvanizing in a positive, like borderline, like holy way. Like I was just so incredibly grateful for the people that took care of me and for having access to that. And it felt like this ancient system of like women helping each other, like stay free in our bodies. And I was just like, fuck yeah, that was amazing. I'm so thrilled that I did not just get forced to have a child. That rules. And I feel awesome about it. And like when I spoke about my experience, I mean, it wasn't that quite that like it was very positive the way that I spoke about it. And I think one of the reasons why it sort of like started this outpouring was like people weren't used to people talking about it in positive terms. And yet, like all the data, both anecdotal and research oriented, tells us that people feel a profound sense of relief. Like that is the most common emotional experience. And that like regret is actually quite rare, that like long-term psychological turmoil is quite rare. And that like people that choose this, the choice may come with a lot of complexity. The emotional experience itself may be complex as well. There might be sadness, there might be grief, there might be all sorts of shit. But like ultimately, people feel good about autonomy and self-determination and having the ability to control their own fertility. And in fact, that is a source of celebration for some. So it was kind of like letting this little secret out of the bag. Like people didn't know they were allowed to feel that way. And I think that has changed significantly. But like that, it's not like that gospel has reached every corner of the earth. And like, so super long-winded, like to return to your original question of like, why should we keep talking about our abortions? Like, because when you speak the honest truth of your life, like in a world that's like told you don't be gay and do crimes, don't have an abortion and feel okay about it, whatever. When you speak the honest like truth and like take up space you're not supposed to, like you give other people permission to do the same. And you saying, I had an abortion and it felt like XYZ and I'm speaking this aloud because of this and that. And like, you're giving other people the permission to like do the same and to know that like, they don't have to be silent. They don't have to pretend to feel fucked up about it. And it's okay if they are fucked up about it. Like, but just you're sort of opening up space that didn't exist and someone just might see you and feel freedom to move differently. And that's really like what culture change looks like at the most granular level. You know, it's like a bunch of people, individuals, just kind of choosing to move differently. And then all of a sudden, we as a cultural, political body are moving differently. And like, I was thinking about this with like coming out stories and abortion stuff specifically, because I think that talking about abortion is in certain like worlds, probably such as both of ours, is becoming so normalized that it's like no longer like a record scratch moment, you know?
Right. Like that you might not have to talk about it at all because you could assume one in X amount of women or people with uteruses have had one, you know, whatever. So
yeah. And just that it's like not like a huge, I don't know, like the reason I thought of that is just like, if I meet, like, I don't like meet someone and if someone references like their like partner, I'm not like, oh, you came out of the closet to me.
Yeah, you're the what?
I'm like, yeah, I never assumed you were straight, you know?
Oh, thank you so much for coming out to me. Yeah. It doesn't have to be earth shattering. It's interesting though, right? It depends on the circle though. It depends on who you're in front of.
Of course. And that's the huge reason why it's important, you know, like why like songs like Lynn's are absolutely like things that change the universe because it's like giving like people will hear that shit and like either experience some kind of internal healing or like go out and have a conversation or like go out and join a protest. And like, you'll never be able to even see the ripple effects that happen just because you like talked about it or made a song about it or wore a shirt or whatever, but it's super real.
Speaking of, you Shout Your Abortion partners with bands and artists a lot. And I know this firsthand because you all have sent War on Women like amazing merch to wear around abortion rights and stuff. And so where did that idea come from, or what's the thinking behind specifically partnering with musicians?
I mean, like, I think I've always been like, because like I said, SYA was an organic thing that was just like me talking about my life. And so it was not like, I'm going to start a nonprofit. It was just like, oops, I popped off and this thing happened. And now me and all my friends are like doing shit. And, you know, all my friends are in bands, and I've always been kind of in music world just as like a, you know, a thrasher and supporter. And I just think it's pretty obvious that like abortion stuff should be everywhere, and bands that want to throw down should be well armed with cool shit that tells people how to have abortions and that abortion is okay and like all the things. So we have done a couple of like, SYA is in this place right now of I don't know, we're kind of, after being like a loose amorphous project for years, we're sort of like, we're trying to systematize and really make our thing something that is like, gives organizers in their communities like tools to go out and work in support of abortion access in concrete, sustained ways. And so we're sort of like in this like pause and really dial shit in moment.
Love it.
Once we like, I really would love for us in the future to have a like consistent like place where bands can just go like sign up for merch, and you know, like where people can go request. We're touring the South and we want a bunch of zines that tell people how to find pills by mail. And we're just like, cool, we got you. Yeah. So like, that's the dream. And I would hope that something like that might be like systematized down the road in the not too far future. But yeah, in the meantime, like we've sent all sorts of folks things. And I just think that like, especially for touring bands, like you guys or like anyone, it's like, you know, as an artist who like has toured a lot and it seems like has a following of people who like believe in freedom and are like fucking mad and are ready to go and are want to contribute to community in positive ways. Like I want those people to know how to have abortions and become resources for that information in their community. And I would love to be like a font of that information to your band and all the bands, because you guys are out there and you got to give the people what they need, you know?
Yeah, we see a lot of people, and it is fascinating to like, you know, tour all around, even just the States, right? Like, so forget any other country.
Where do you live? Are you in New York?
Baltimore.
Okay.
But like just touring the States, every state is different as far as like how good is their sex ed programs and like education and access. And is it even, like all these things like add up to like, you know, some cities, some states are like, fucking give me everything you've got. Like, give me all the information, give me all the skills. Like, I need the resources, help us. And some are like, we got this, but we're going to keep doing it. Thanks so much. You're preaching to the choir, you know, it's wild to have such different experiences in the same fucking country. But before you go, I wanted to ask kind of a couple things, but answer it however you want. Since the overturning of Roe v. Wade, how much worse has it gotten? And, or maybe if you don't want to talk about that anymore, which I get, what should people be looking out for? What should people be doing ahead of the election coming up this fall?
Yeah. So as I said before, like the how much worse have things gotten question is a bit complex because on one hand, abortion has been completely banned or very severely banned in, I believe, 21 states at this point. But like almost all the states have at least some restrictions on abortion, which to me, the only abortion restriction that I want is a blank sheet of paper. I don't want the government involved in those decisions whatsoever. So I don't think that a state that, for example, has a 22-week abortion ban is like, which may have been in compliance with Roe versus Wade, like that to me is severely insufficient.
Yeah.
And I think it's really, really important to remember that Roe versus Wade was not ever enough. It, after Roe happened, the Hyde Amendment came along and made it so that people couldn't use federal insurance to pay for abortion. So it's always been pay to play as opposed to like a right that one can just go like actualize. And so access has always been totally racist, totally classist, and out of reach for millions of people. And since the overturning of Roe, obviously, like there's been this landslide of additional bans, and tens of millions of people now live in a state without a single abortion clinic. We know that people are falling through the cracks and are being forced to continue pregnancies that they desperately do not want. And it's difficult to find data on how many people that is because those people are so deeply marginalized that they are generally invisible to pollsters, to researchers, to the organizations and activists and like networks of support that could have reached them. Mm-hmm. Like we can't count the people that we didn't find. Mm-hmm. So that number is, I know it's super fucking depressing, but I'm about to like get hyped here.
Okay.
So like that is fucking terrible. And it is almost an unknown level of terribleness. And simultaneously, pills by mail have become increasingly available through all sorts of sources, whether these are overseas activist organizations like Aid Access. There are online pharmacies who are kind of operating outside of legality, but people are using them all the time without getting into trouble and are having safe abortions at home with pills that they purchased for $35 or whatever. There are community networks like Las Libres that are essentially activist groups of people that are mailing pills into everywhere, including red states, and people, tens of thousands of people, even hundreds of thousands of people since Dobbs have successfully used community networks to end pregnancies. There's also all sorts of legal telehealth stuff available and shield laws. There's like a range of options for people to get pills by mail. And all of those options can be found at plancpills.org. Plan C is the place to go to find what your options are, no matter where you live, and find things to support you in the process, whether that's, wanting to know more about legal risk or medical support or emotional support, whatever. plancpills.org. So, and also, as I said before, like this activist network of abortion funds, of people sharing information, giving rides, independent abortion clinics who are fighting to expand services and make sure people are getting the care that they need and push later into gestation and see more patients from out of state who are being pushed later in gestation because of having to navigate bans and other logistical hurdles. That activist network has been working around the clock and like growing because abortion access already sucked before Dobbs. And all of these things together are working, and in some ways working better than before, but people are falling through the cracks. So like the answer is that we have to continue pushing into the most marginalized places. because those are the people that are being most affected by bans. And also that this data is showing us that we can do it, we are doing it, and that together people have the power to undermine the impact of abortion bans. And that we can, I fully believe, to a large degree, negate their power with enough of us on board. And if people want to know how to get involved, I think that going to shoutyourabortion.com is a great place to get started. There is a ton of different shit that you can just start learning about and sort of find your way into the work, find a way in that feels like right to you based on who you are, where you are, what resources you have, what skills you have, what your risk tolerance is. But I think that the best, like I said before, the best starting point is to start understanding how people can have abortions in post-Dobbs America and make yourself a resource for that information in your community. And that's something that you can do by just going to SY, follow us on Instagram, go to our website and fuck around our resources page. Just start learning how this new landscape works and start telling people about it. And then we just keep doing it. We just fucking keep doing it.
Amazing. Have abortions, do crimes. Whatever. Thank you so much, Amelia, for joining me and for giving us your perspective. I really appreciate you being on But Her Lyrics.
Thank you so much, Shawna, for existing and everything that you're doing. And we're on the same team, and really, really appreciate the way you show up. And let's just keep in touch, and I'll keep giving you all the shirts, and you'll go out on the road and tell people how to have abortions.
Fuck yes. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a plan. Thanks, Shawna. Have a good day.
All right. Big thanks to Lynn and Amelia for all you do, all you will do, and just for being rad in general. Keep listening to hear the Bad Cop song, Safe and Legal, in full. You can support this podcast by liking my YouTube channel and sharing, subscribing, and reviewing But Her Lyrics wherever you get your podcasts. It's free and it helps. To find episode transcripts or to find out more about what I do, my book, my trainings, my Patreon, my intimacy coordination, head to shawnapotter.com. To learn about all things WOW, head to our linktree, linktr.ee/waronwomen. And you can also find me on Cameo. Because why not? Let's get weird. I'm also working on some fun stuff for July and August, so subscribe to my Patreon if you haven't already. And just thank you for listening. Abortion forever.
Doesn't matter.